Okay, today we're going to talk about how to become a freight broker in the United States of America. So as you know, I quit that logistics company I worked for as agent since October last year, and since my photography gigs died down, I decided to register my own broker authority. Now you basically need five things to become a broker. Well, maybe six. Yeah, six. So number one, it would help to have some experience in the field, especially working like what I did, because just tracking, it's not enough. Even though, like, when I was independent, right, I dealt with all the paperwork, I was doing invoices, bills of lading myself, so that helps. So if you were an independent trucker, the learning curve will be shorter, but you still need to work somewhere, like in an office, of a logistics company, I don't know, maybe as a dispatch, or what I did, freight agent, because it does help. I'm telling you, like, just trucking by itself, it's not enough. So now I feel pretty confident that I can handle this, and because I was thinking about getting this authority in the fall, right? But I had no experience as a broker. So that's number one. Number one, you need to have some kind of an experience in a secondary role, like some kind of a support role at a brokerage or dispatch company, somewhere where you deal with paperwork, trucks, load confirmations, that kind of thing, invoicing. And then number two, and this is all relates only to US, of course. In Canada, there's no registration. No, actually, well, you still need experience, like that. That's still true. But all the other steps, it's only for US, because you only need to be registered as broker under FMCSA in the States if you're moving loads from or to US, right? Like if I'm moving a load from, let's say, Edmonton to Toronto, I don't need any MC number, I don't need a DOT number, I don't need the bond, But in the States, it's different, right? And so that's step number two. You just Google, broker registration, Federal Motor Carrier, FMCSA, right? Federal Motor Carrier Authority. And you'll get to a page, and it takes about probably 15-20 minutes. There's a bunch of certifications and affidavits that you have. Click, okay, you're on a government website, US government website, okay, you promise, not to do this, And then at a certain point, they were asking me for some kind of a Canadian registration, right? And I realized, because I'm applying, basically it's a DOT number, right? I'm applying for a DOT number, so the system thinks I'm starting a trucking company, right? And so it was asking me for when I was in Ontario, it was the same thing when I was registering as an independent carrier. Before they allowed me to finish the US certificate registration, because I started doing that first, they asked me for my Ontario CVOR, Commercial Vehicle Operator Registration, which is same as DOT number, but for Ontario. And I didn't have one, so I had to go and leave the American side, and I had to go deal with the Canadian Ontario registration, right? But now I'm not a carrier, I'm not a broker, I don't need any registration in Canada. And so I thought, okay, what do I do now? They're asking me for on the screen, it says, registration, and you cannot click the next button to go to the next screen unless you do something. It's basically grayed out. And I'm thinking, what the heck? So I just clicked where I was supposed to type in the number, and I just wrote non-applicable. And right away the next button lit up. I was able to click it and finish the registration. And at the very end, they say, are you sure? Because it's non-refundable, and it costs $300 US to register. And once you click that magic button, you know, nothing happens. You just receive a receipt. And what's interesting is that they don't tell you what the next steps are. You know, they don't send you reminders. They don't care. All they want is your money. So you paid, okay, you registered, and it just said that basically there was something about that this preliminary registration is valid, I think, for like 20 days. So if you don't supply them the documents they want, this registration will be void, and you just basically lost $300. And yeah, I think they did mention in the during the application process, they did mention that BOC 3, as I call it, you know, you need a processing agent, right, like a representative in every state, and that just costs like $35. And then the next thing you need is a bond, which is called BMC 84 or BMC 85, and that's what they want. But you don't need to have them right away. So basically, that's the second step, is just finishing this paperwork online, right? And so I did that. They charged me $300 and sent me a confirmation. So now I see my new DOT number. And then the next step I did, I remember I did have this BOC 3 agent when I was a trucker, right? So I found the old receipt and contacted the company. They're still in business, and I said, hey, I'm now a broker. I need this registration again, but on the different DOT number. And so she charged me this 30 or 36 bucks US. And then once you pay them, they send you the kind of like a contract with all the info, and then they file it on your behalf at the FMCSA website, because that's kind of like, you know, even though it's a small thing, but it's important for them. And then the next step is probably the most you know, time consuming, is getting the bond, BMC 84 or BMC 85. And the way it works is that they require you to maintain 75,000 US, kind of like you know, protection. Let's say, you know, there's some damage to the load and somebody tries to collect some money, so that's what they can do. They can collect this from this fund, 75,000. But you don't have to have it yourself. You just pay to the insurance company that provides you this bond, which is pretty much like insurance coverage, right? But it's very specific. It protects you in case of like a lawsuit or something, or claim, right? And when I was researching this, like trying to find out how much it costs per year, because you have to pay every year, numbers were all over the place. Some people were saying, you know, 5%, you know, 5%. Some people were saying 1%, and then basically the last thing I read said it all depends on your credit. So 5% from 75 is $3,700, $3,750 US, right? So it's pretty expensive. So that's like $5 grand Canadian probably. And so I found a company, actually one of the companies that contacted me, and more about this later, about these contacts. And we agreed on the price, and she asked me what my credit score was. I said I have no idea, but I said I bought an apartment last fall, so it shouldn't be too bad. So I went to my bank's website where I could see for free my credit score, and so I told her my credit score, and she wanted my credit report as well. And so I said, let's do it over the phone, like the, you know, the payment. And so she said, in my case, it was like $950 US for the first year. And I asked him, I said, is it gonna change next year? Because I heard some horror stories, you know, where they basically they draw you in with a cheap first year, but then they can just, you know, double or triple the rate. And this lady swore to me that they're not going to do it unless there's some kind of a claim or something like that. So basically she said, you know, keep your, you know, account, so to speak, you know, in good standing, and everything will be good. And then, so I paid, and she emailed me the contract and this BMC 85. And the worst part is that you don't just sign it, you need to have a notary present. And I couldn't find a notary in my area at first, but I found a commissioner of oaths, right? And so I asked him, I said, will this work? Because this guy says he notarizes. Well, he's not a notary, but it's the same thing. He witnesses the signature, and then he stamps, and he has a stamp, everything. And they said, yeah, it will work. But while I was waiting for them to answer me, I did find a notary, and maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes away from my home, you know. But the address was weird, because I know the area already, and the address was just a house, right? And so I talked to the lady. She says, yeah, okay. We book an appointment. So she says, I have somebody coming at around 6, so can you come over at 6:30? And I said, okay. So I wait for 6:30, then I drive over there. And I was right, it's a house. It's a house. I ring the bell. The door stays closed, but some small kid's head pops through the window, and he says, 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, what kind of a notary office is this, right? So kids are running around acting as receptionists, you know. And then finally the door opens, and it's a regular house, and all she did was she bought a small table and she put it right there next to the door, you know. And there's no lights, and you know that typeface font on the contract is pretty small. You know, I'm not exactly 20 years old. You know, I need good light in order to sign something, right? Even though I don't wear glasses, I see fine, but it's dark, you know. And I said, can we get some lights in here? And she shouts to her son, like a 5-year-old kid. And he turns on a light, but it's somewhere like in the back of the room, you know. Like it didn't do anything to that dark corner, you know. But I said, okay, well, we'll try to make it work. And so the first page, like there was like 5 or 6 spots where I had to sign it and she would witness it and notarize it. But there was one page where I just had to sign as the owner of the business, and there has to be a witness. Somebody, like any adult, they don't have to know you, but somebody just have to witness the signature, not a notary. Not the commissioner of oath, but some, you know, any person, I think any adult over like 18 or 19 or something. And this lady says, I cannot do it. I cannot be a witness. And I said, so how do I proceed, you know? Like, well, you know, ask your wife. I said, I'm not married. How about your business partner? I don't have a business partner. It's a sole proprietorship, right? And so basically she refused to help me find a witness. I said, maybe you know somebody, right? Like maybe some neighbor. It doesn't matter, anybody. They just want a name. You just have to print the name and sign. And so basically I just collected all papers and I left. So you don't want to, because you know, what's the point? If I cannot find a witness, it's all for nothing. Because once I sign, what if I ask somebody to sign as a witness, and they'll say, hey, we didn't see you signing this, right? So anyway, I went back, and by this time back home, by this time I had the answer from the insurance company saying that, yeah, that commissioner of oaths would work. And so this morning I called the guy, and I said his office opened at 10 o'clock. I called the guy, we booked an appointment, I went over there. Took probably like 15 minutes, and again the same issue happened with the witness, but at least this guy was super nice, you know, and he knows his neighbors. And I said, can we just get somebody, you know? And so he called the guy in the next office, and some young kid shows up, And it turns out he says, what is this? And I explained, you know, I'm registering as a freight broker. And as soon as he heard the words freight broker, he became really interested. And he says, we are a trucking company. Like, maybe you can find us loads? And I said, sign and we'll talk. No, I'm kidding, I didn't say that. But I said, what kind of trailers you run? And he says, oh, dry van and reefers. And I said, I'm sorry. I said, I only do open deck transport. I said, flatbed, step deck, RGM. And I said, you know, if you buy a flatbed or step deck, just maybe I'll help you. And he says, oh man, he says, it's hard to find drivers, you know, especially they have to be experienced, right, for a flatbed or step deck. So they don't want to do it. So anyway, but the guy was, after like some hesitation, he did sign, because, you know, most people are afraid that they're signing and then they'll be part of a lawsuit or something, right? And I said, no, you're just signing. It has nothing to do with the contract. You're just a witness to, you know, me signing. So anyway, so that was the most difficult part. You know, you have to find somebody who will act as a witness. And so this guy, the commissioner or notary, he charges by the seal. By how many times he had to stamp the paperwork? He had to stamp in 5 spots. So he charged me 50 bucks Canadian per, you know, so it's like 250 bucks, you know. Oh, and then, yeah, then I already said the insurance, the bond was $950 US, right? And then after that, I scanned it because they want the email copy first, or as they call it, soft copy. So I scanned it, took me a while with a phone, and I emailed it to them, and then I drove over to UPS store and I sent it by mail, because they also said they have to receive this within 10 days after I made the payment. If they don't receive the paperwork all signed, properly notarized, that contract is void, and I'm guessing I'm losing the $950, you know. So it's like time limit on everything, right? And so I just mailed it this morning and emailed them. I mean, not this morning, but after I came back, right? Went to the UPS store. That's another, cost 50 bucks because I wanted to send it, you know, quickly. And so today's Friday, but they will receive it in Oklahoma, USA Monday. So we should be good in terms of time limits. And then the last thing you need to get registered as a broker is a very thick skin and safe mind and sound mind, because as soon as you click that button, you know, submit on the FMCSA website, your phone starts ringing, your email box starts beeping. So, and these people, I don't hesitate to call them scumbags, because, you know, basically they're offering you services, right? But they pretend they work for the government. You know, they all have names. Like the company has a name that pretty much sounds like, you know, a federal corporation. You know. And some guy called me like within 5 minutes after I finished the registration on the website. Calls me and I see the name, and it sounds like official. And he said, "Okay, congratulations on your registration, Mr. Dratchev. Now the next step is," and I'm like, ho, hey, wait a second. Are you in any way affiliated with the US government? The guy says, no. Boom, I click disconnect, block the caller. Because I remember this from when I was registering my trucking authority. The same thing happened, you know. And actually, even on their website, FMCSA, because probably so many people were, you know, angry about this, FMCSA warns you that this will happen, that you will receive multiple calls and emails, and all these people are pretending to be part of the government. But yeah, I received probably a dozen emails saying, okay, so now the next, thank you. And again, it sounds super official. Okay, congratulations, your registration was successful. You know, the next step is get your BOC3 or BOC3 you know, documents, which I did already, right? Or then they would say, okay, now how about your registration was successful, congratulations, now let's get you the bond, you know, BMC 84 or BMC 85. I'm like, get lost, you know. And then the last one, a guy sends me an email, again, because it's a DOT number, right? They don't read what kind of registration it is. They don't care. All they see is that it's a new DOT number registration. And DOT number means that you can be a trucker, right? Or you can be a broker, but they don't care. So they send me a list, like this last guy sends me a list. Okay, we can help you with this, you know, medical testing. Do you have an ELD? Again, he assumes I'm a trucker. And I'm like, holy moly. I even actually replied to this guy. I said, if you would have spent time to read what kind of registration I did, you would see that it's a property broker. That's what American authorities are calling this, property broker. And so I'm not a carrier. I don't need any medical testing. I don't need ELDs. I don't need logbooks. I don't need to certify my drivers, you know. It's so much easier than becoming a carrier. That's what I can tell you. And so those are the things you need, right? Like I mentioned, so just to cover again the basics. So you need some experience in the freight field, then register the DOT number, then get this BOC 3, then you need to get the bond for $75,000, and then you need to develop a very thick skin against all these fraudsters trying to sell you unwanted services, because they can see your phone number and your email. It's all public knowledge. And then of course one last thing, you need to find a way to get customers, right? Customers and trucks. So you need customers that willing to ship freight with you, and you need to find a way of getting carriers to truck it for you, right? So that's in short, that's how you do it. That's how I did it. So now basically the insurance company, once they receive my contract, they're gonna sign their side in there, because you know she sent me a blank contract, like, well, it's a, you know, contract but no signatures, right? So first I signed, so now I send it to them. They're gonna sign their side, and then they will file this on my behalf on that FMCSA website, so that the government will know I have the bond. And once that happens, probably in the next 2 weeks, my registration should be active, because I can go type in what is called the company snapshot, you know, FMCSA company snapshot, and I type in my DOT number, and it says property broker. It shows my name, address, email address, but then line 2 says status inactive, right? And so that's how you check, you know, that's how you know. So once this insurance business checks out, FMCSA is going to change the status to active, and that's when I can, you know, start, you know, moving loads in and out of US. So that's the procedure. Not too complicated, but not too easy either, especially if you're single and you don't have anybody to witness your signature, because most people are afraid to act as a witness, you know, like, what am I signing? Who is this guy, you know? So again, so I hope some people found this interesting and entertaining, that part about the notary with her kids running around. Thanks for watching. Bye.